What if we could learn from outstanding leaders in business, sports, and education from some of the best voices in corporate America? Lighting the Path is a series of interviews with industry leaders whose stories highlight strategies that build purpose-driven cultures, engage and retain top talent, develop drivers that create high-performance teams, and connect people to the vision of your company. Join us to hear from game-changing, talented leaders whose paths make a difference at work and at home.
And look, the other thing that my clients are seeing, Mike, the war for talent, on the supply side, the fact that talent is what do we got, 4.5 right now, 4.5 million more open jobs and people looking for jobs. Like that's not a little blip on the radar screen. Right. This is years. We're going to see a candidate short market. So then the human capital acquisition, human capital engagement with clients. So they're critical to the success of my clients.
So where that fits into is what you and I were comparing notes this morning on the engagement numbers that we've seen, and Sherman Gallup just released the numbers back was in March of this year, I believe, that talks about that you only have 32% of the marketplace feel like that they're fully engaged. And what's interesting with that number is it's the first time they've actually seen, it's been pretty flat for the last really almost 2 decades. It's been right about 34% for the first time. They're seeing that drop. And then you got the bottom then, the 18% of the quiet quitters, the ones that are the troublemakers, they just chose not to have left yet and told anybody. But you got that middle ground. That's what you're talking about, that 50% in the middle. Those are the people that feel like that they are somewhat engaged, and that's where the turnover, that's where the dysfunction comes in. If we can just nudge those up 1 or 2 points up into fully engaged, life changes.
Another resource you need to put into the notes, and I'm going to say 2 things. Number 1, It's the Manager by Jim Clifton. It's the Manager. You can get, if you got a company with 2 managers, you got a company with 200 managers, study groups, read that book. The whole thesis of that book is how do we go from traditional management to a manager as a coach. So traditional manager as a coach. And hey, look, God bless the millennials. 35% of the workforce are millennials right now. Those folks have not had any management training. What do? I'm a millennial. I have no management training. I get thrown into a management position. They actually go back to the autocratic way of managing. It's just sort of hardwired, and it's what they heard from grandparents and parents, and on and on and on. They just kind of resort back to well, why should we do this? Why should we do this, boss? Well, because I said so. So the flip side of that is that we'll spend a lot of money on sales training. We'll spend a lot of money on recruiting training. We spend nothing on management training. My gosh, the biggest bang for your buck. We're talking about engagement. The biggest bang for your buck. Get your managers, not as traditional, train them as managers, as coaches. It's the Manager, Jim Clifton. I mean, it doesn't get better. It doesn't get better. And by the way, I always say there's 2 kinds of books to read. One, business books that are based on data collection, and books that are based on theory. Gallup poll, 800,000 managers that they surveyed, that they continue to survey. I don't know what it is now. On the best managers, the managers that had the highest engagement. That's another whole resource that they first break all the rules. That's another classic that if you haven't read, my God.
Right.
But anyway, that 50%, you want to get that 50%, a certain percentage of that into that engagement category. It's anything that you can do to transition your managers from traditional managers into managers as coaches. Rock solid.
It's literally the number one engagement. The surveys that have come out, it's the number one engagement tool is when an employee feels like that they're being developed, whatever that means, whatever their definition is. It just changes their perception of I am valued.
All right. Yeah.
That's the changes.
And,
And that's what you're finding.
we haven't talked about culture development, but and of course in the remote work, another huge challenge that my clients are dealing with. The number one reason why, let me see if I can get this right. The number one reason why people leave the manager, number one reason why people stay, I have a best friend at work. So now we're talking. Now we're in the culture development. So how do I create a culture where people can really develop, healthy relationships?
Huge
right?
along those lines.
So Mike, so back to 15 minutes, back to 15 minutes ago. So the president of the company, I want to grow my business. These are the things I'm reading about. These are the things I'm networking with. I'm not networking about, hey, what's the new AI tool out there? Hey, how do I make my recruiters more productive? Or hey, how do I make my database smarter, better, faster? That's your manager's job to do. So one wants to transition out of that tactical stuff and start thinking and bringing those higher culture development, management development, some of these dynamics that we've been talking about. That's part of the transformation that has to happen.
Huge. And I love what you said here, Tom. And another word you said that I think we got to chronicle right now is the word coach. There's a whole different, you have leader, you have manager, you have coach. Those are three different.
Yes. Amen.
As you call it, it's not a skill, right?
Correct.
And that's something that comes when you move in a coach role. It's the ability to call the plays and not get on the field. You call the plays, all right, and then you develop the team to be able to run the plays, and you turn them loose, and then you start spinning it around, and you start getting the person who is, the franchise player who's actually the leader on the field. And it's not the coach; it's the person who's the leader on the field, and building an organization where that's taking place organically. But man, it's the ability to coach is we've not been taught that in business. Athletic teams are taught how to coach. I think I've never been in that space. My brother Wendell made a career coaching, still is. He retired and went right back in and started coaching, girls softball and helping with the football team. But he goes to seminars and stuff on coaching and designing plays, and acting, what have you.
Real quick, I delineate between coaches and mentors. I think coaching, is going to help me learn how to make better decisions within my organization, better hires within my organization, learn how to budget or think about finances at a different level. Coaches, and then mentors. I think about mentors as we talked about. Hey, I want to become a better human being. So mentors are people that are either extremely successful business leaders that can come and I know you've experienced that, where they can just, Tom, like zip and hit you right in the heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Right. And then you're like, and then it just throws you upside down.
Mm-hmm.
And,
but you know what you said that, Tom, I think it's important. You're making me think about something. I'm thinking about the mentors that I've had in my life. What they did is that they were wise sages. And somebody said, Mike, with your gray hair, you're now a sage. I think I'm putting that on my business card. But I think of people who have been mentors of mine, but they weren't just speaking into me. They literally were walking alongside of me, not in front of me, not behind me, right? But they were right there. And are we building a culture in our organizations where there's a mentor relationship with people and their employees?
The Kim Scott work, Radical Candor. She talks about how one conversation will change a person's life. Isn't that fantastic?
That's awesome.
One conversation can change a person's life.
What's her name again?
Hey, Kim Scott, Radical Candor. That's another book you can put on you. So, by the way, I was at Staffing World and somebody said, Tom, when are you going to get a list of books on your website? Which I need to. Hey, so I got to tell you a real quick funny story. Well, not funny story, but this was a business out of Tennessee, a successful group, and the CEO, he was in my roundtable, and he was telling the group a story where he got a thank you card from a gentleman with a business card in it. And he looked, and nice card. Thank you so much. You changed my life. ... In that card, he said, I had no idea who this guy was. He said, I asked my wife, who is it? He said, I talked to other senior, who is this? I don't know this guy. I don't remember this guy. So the business card, he said, after about a few weeks, he said, I finally got the guts to pick up the phone and dial the call. And the guy answers and said, hey, so-and-so here. I received your thank you note, but I have to confess, I don't remember who you are. And the guy said, or what I did to change your life. And he said, oh my gosh. He said, I was the guy who wrote the thank you card. He says, I was a cocky, and you fired me. Isn't that great?
I love it.
It changed my life.
That's right.
The fact that somebody cared enough about me to call me on all my, horse manure, and fired me. He said, it sent me reeling, and I had to get a grip on my life and the effect I was having on other people. Isn't that great?
That's amazing. Especially because that's the ultimate feedback, right? But it's to love somebody enough to give somebody a difficult message so that they have an opportunity to make choices on what's the next step, as opposed to just, not be willing to deal with conflict, and not be willing, not making up the story, of what could or couldn't happen out of it, but simply giving somebody feedback and then turning them loose and saying, what do you want to do with this?
Yeah.
Choice.
Yeah.
So
it's where we started talking about leadership development, and so books, just there's so many great resources out there. I could rifle off a few more, but anyway, there's so many. Just reading books, number one, is going to help. Number two, there are educational programs that one can, or the management team can go. Like here in Chicago, we've got the Kellogg School that has a summer school. The University of Chicago has a summer school. Loyola has a summer school. And I do have clients that will take their management team for a whole week, up to Northwestern. It's expensive, and it just gives them that time away educationally to engage in some concepts and things like that. Mentors, coaches, really important. What you had mentioned, roundtables where you're with your peers, and where your peers can share ideas, but also say, Tom, you're not thinking right on this. It's where, versus you or versus me going to a client and saying, hey, Joe, you're not thinking clear. Right, Tom?
It changes whenever you put people together. That's
right. So
I love watching that in the mastermind group that I lead, watching people just speak lovingly into each other.
Right.
And not mean-spiritedly, just offering questions sometimes, just being sounding boards.
And so there's so many things that a leader can do to continue to develop both skills and human development and leadership development and all that. And what happens with our business, another challenge is that our business sucks us back into it.
Mm-hmm.
The craziness of the staffing industry sucks us back into it. And it's a challenge that every person that's running a staffing company, every manager that's managing a branch has got to learn how to manage. And that is, how do I get X percentage of my week where I can, from the heart or from the head, work on the business.
You bet you work on the business versus the business. And what happens, I've seen, Tom, tell me if your window's the same as mine, which I think it is you have people get in there, they get tactical sales, putting bid deals together, whatever. And what takes place is that when you go into a leadership type of role, we don't create as much value for that. Mark Sandburn just produced an article that talked about the importance of reflection time, not thinking time. Not thinking, but reflecting is deeper than thinking. But to create space that allows your brain to stop and process at a deeper level, and put as much value on that as it is making the next sale or managing the best client.
I go on 2 silent retreats every year,
Mm.
And, as much as we like these things, it's the devil.
It is.
This is, and I'm writing a blog about this because when I was at Staffing World, there were a number. Tom, tell me about the silent retreat. I'm so intrigued. On and on. Like, what do you do? I said, well, for your phone, your laptop, all that stuff. Here's the thing, Mike. What happens when you get away from all that stimulus, the mobile phone stimulus, the email, the ping, 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 ping that's happening on our your brain and your body starts to do what it was built to do. You become you ruminate, you think, you start to see things that you haven't seen before. You start to hear things that you haven't heard before. The creativity side of your brain just opens up when you go on these retreats and you get away from all that stuff. It's another critical this is not Tom Kosnik. I mean, there's so many leadership development coaches out there. I'm sure people that you've read and I've read that would say the same thing. Like, if you're not getting away from it all, I mean, Bill Gates, what he used to like twice.
That's a 1 month. He goes off literally. Is it a month or something like that? He goes off and he goes off to a cabin and reads.
Yes.
And he goes, he has his topics of what he wants to read about, so he can go and get immersed in a subject. Just get immersed into it. So I laughed, but you reminded me, I was trying to make a major decision in my life, and the pastor of our church said, okay, Mike said, you should go to a quiet retreat, silent retreat. And so silent retreat, so yeah, you won't talk for a weekend. So I went home and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to go do the silent retreat. She goes, go do that. And she told me later on, she goes, he'll never make it. Yeah, he'll never. But I did. I did. And it was really interesting. Do
you do any silent? Do you do silent retreats now? Do you still?
I actually helped to facilitate and lead them because of a ministry I'm involved with, parents, husband and wives. And
nice.
Parents and sons and daughters. And you leave all your technology. Well, it's not silent, but you leave technology in car. No electronics, no watches, nothing.
Amen.
And you turn it over, and then you get a chance to find out more about connecting with the Creator. You get a chance to go and find out a little bit more about what is it like to be in that space. And as you said, what happens is when you fight the blurriness of busyness, which is what that thing is. You know, my daughter and I had taught me this, is that we learned is that this thing right here does not allow you to be connected to somebody, only in contact. And there's a huge difference with that.
Yes.
And it's how do we do this? And so I love our conversation, Tom. I knew this was going to be like this. You know, it's like I'm watching the clock here. I got to wrap this thing up. But I'd love to leave the door open for us to come back and
I'd love to
talk about this, because this message that you have needs to be louder. And the reason I know that is because mine needs to be louder. It's just such an important topic that people have. And so while it's in the show notes, tell anybody who might be listening to this on the audio, what's the best way if somebody wanted to read about you or follow you to hear what you're putting out in the marketplace?
Yeah, sure. First off, connect with us on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Tom G. Kosnik. Connect. Follow the Vices group on LinkedIn. We've got hundreds of followers now. And we work with senior leaders. So we're putting blogs and LinkedIn and all that is specifically geared towards senior leaders in the staffing industry. And, but those would be the best way to do it. And of course, feel free to find me on LinkedIn, reach out, give me a call, grab me at one of the conferences.
So one of the things I learned about you early on, Tom, is you got a great mind, but what's bigger than your mind is people might be looking at the video saying how big your head is. And that's, like mine, it fills up space. But what's bigger than that is your heart, your desire to really, truly impact lives. And when I think back on the wake that you're causing in the marketplace within the recruiting industry, I'm just proud to be able to know you and have journeyed with you. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you so much, Mike.
As we like to say, that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us today on Lighting the Path, Strategies for Tomorrow's Leaders. If anything in this podcast speaks to you, if I've challenged you, or if you want to spend time digging into this subject a little deeper, or if you disagree with me, reach out. My contact information is on our website, lightingthepath.net, or email me at mike@mikelejeune.com. Also, look for me on LinkedIn. I'd love to connect our networks. Keep lighting the path for those who choose to follow you. It's more than a responsibility. It's an honor.